In today's episode, I'm doing a Q&A to answer questions from founders, creators, newsletter writers across a whole bunch of different industries. We get into how to find a solo SaaS idea as a non-technical founder, how I'd map out a business from scratch, and there's also questions on newsletter growth, picking the right niche, gathering feedback, early hires, and how I'd approach starting Kit today with AI and all the new tools that are available. There's a lot to dig into, but also I'd love to hear from you on this format. We made the whole episode a bit more conversational and shared a lot more behind the scenes. So, do you like that? Would you rather I do more rapid fire answers to get to more questions? Let me know in the comments. Haley, welcome back to my podcast, which you have made your podcast. Even just your reaction there is like, your podcast, please. I built the studio. I control everything.
Exactly.
So as the wannabe puppet master behind the scenes.
Wannabe? I mean, I'm fully committed to being the actual puppet master outside of maybe Kara, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say, that's why you still have wannabe status. We're going to do a few things. We're going to do a Q&A episode, a few updates on what's going on at Kit. Yeah. What else? You have the laptop. What else do you have planned?
At Craft and Commerce, I had at least 5 people, and this is no exaggeration, come up to me and say some version of, "Are you Haley?" from the Q&A episodes. And then the second thing that they said after that was, "I love how much you tease, roast,
I love your word selection, the pause. You went through probably 4 words.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love how much you tease Nathan. And so I was like, you just gave me authority to continue on this trend. So
you were already doing it. You just do it on camera.
Exactly. Yeah. You notice how, thanks for calling me this morning and asking me what I was wearing today. Since we're matching.
We both have the knit polo going on.
Since we're matching, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
This was unplanned, just in case anybody is wondering and you're watching.
Yes, exactly. Which is a good call out to watch on YouTube, because then you can see our outfit choices.
I'm not going to lie, though. I do like shopping with Nathan. I do have a really great clip of pre-Craft and Commerce. I did text him and ask him, like, hey, what are you wearing for your keynote? Just making sure. And we did go on a little shopping trip to make sure that you were, you know.
Can we do a little teaser only for the people watching on YouTube? Like, will you give them
the clip of you coming out of the...
Yes.
Yes,
okay,
we can.
So if you're go watch on YouTube and subscribe and like and comment and all of those things. Mm-hmm. And we'll drop in the clip of
Nathan doing a pirouette. Hey.
Few people know that I was on... Am I really going to say this fact out loud? I am. We're going with it. Okay. I was on the ballroom dance team in college. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, even further teaser, I don't feel like I was fast enough to get my phone out, but we did recently go wake surfing. And at some point, while one of the people were wake surfing and like doing their stride, like they were going, you and your sister-in-law got up and did some cha-cha-cha ballroom dance on the boat. And I was like, it was one of my favorite moments.
All right. Well, I think people want maybe questions and discussion on the creator economy.
Yes. Well, this, as we've talked about, these are the most beloved episodes because of your co-host. And we haven't done this in a while. So we are going to go straight into the questions because there is a bunch of really good questions. People love your insight. And so let's dig in, yeah?
Sounds good.
First up from Minaj, how do you find a SaaS idea that one person can build using no-code tools? Is that feasible for a non-tech person?
Oh, okay. It's the most feasible it's ever been. Mm-hmm. So first, no code had this big rise, a handful of years ago. And that was tools like Bubble, powered by Airtable and all of this stuff. And no code is kind of dead now. I think I can say that. Like,
I thought it was, okay. So is no code not vibe coding?
No coding is not vibe coding.
Okay.
No coding, that's like using these off the shelf tools in order to, build software without code, but it's this proxy for doing it the right way.
Got it.
And it worked out for a while. There's some startups that were built on no-code platforms that have been acquired. But what ended up changing is that vibe coding came along, which is an entertaining term, but really using AI-driven, prompt-driven coding on platforms like Replit and Lovable and V0 and others. And so now you can do that, but you're actually using dev tools that a professional would use. It's managed in Git for version tracking. It's using the correct databases. It's using all of this.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you for a hot second. The specific question is that feasible for a non-tech person? So I need you to dumb it down just a little bit. Okay.
So yes, it's more feasible than it ever has before.
Okay.
What I would do is I would use Replit.
Got it.
And the reason is it's a fully hosted platform. It has an agent in there that you can prompt and you can tell it, this is what I want to do. And it will build it for you. And I use it every week and it's fantastic. So it's totally feasible to do as an individual non-tech person. Two things that I think really matter are one, getting really clear on what you're building and who you're building it for. So a lot of people, like now you can build anything. And so narrow down and say, okay, this is the exact use case that I'm building. And the second thing is I would get a developer mentor. And so you're going to run into problems, things that you can't solve or figure out. And you're going to need someone who explains it to you and says, oh, this is why you're stuck here. Or let's take a step back. You know, your dev agent jumped 3 steps ahead to try to get this done, but like, that's not the best way to go long-term. So when I was starting Kit, Brennan Dunn is someone who mentored me in the early days where I was hiring developers, I was working with other people. And then periodically every 3 to 4 weeks, I'd get on a call with him and be like, hey, can we talk through like this direction that we're headed? And he's like, oh, you actually don't want to go that way. You want to go this way. Right. And just having that advice. So either find someone on social media, or you could even potentially hire somebody, who's going to provide you that technical support and advice along the way.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't your boys do a video game with Replit?
Yeah, so they did it with Cursor.
Oh, Cursor, okay.
Which is another great dev tool. The downside of Cursor is that it doesn't have a fully hosted like environment to deploy it to the web and everything. So you have to be a little bit more technical. But yeah, I showed my kids Cursor and within an hour, they had like a kind of Minecraft style video game where they were walking around like mining resources and all of that stuff, all prompt driven.
And we would qualify your kids as non-tech, right?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So yes, the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. It is feasible for a non-tech person to vibe code and create something magical.
Yes.
All right, moving on. This question is from Dawn, and the question is: can you map out a creator business for someone who is brand new? Ooh, this is this can be a really simple question, or it can be a really complex question.
You can go so many different directions on this.
So many different directions.
Okay, so the first thing is you need an audience, and then you need a pain point. So when we talk about audience, we're looking for the intersection of a few different things. We're looking for a group that you have insight into, right? So either you have, you've worked in this industry or you have a family member who does or something like, you have to have some sort of insight and understanding of what's going on. Don't just pick some random audience and go from there. The second thing is they have to have a pain point that you believe you can solve. And then the third thing that I believe is really important is there has to be money involved in some way. So if we want to make this, a sustainable business, we've got to make money. So what matters to me is I always choose to teach a skill that makes money to people who have money. So we could have a skill that doesn't make money to people who don't have money. That would be like, let's teach knitting to teenagers. That's not going to make a very sustainable business. So it's going to be much harder. Or you go the other end and you say, hey, I'm going to teach design to professional designers, right? Skill that makes money to people who have money. So those are 2 ends of the spectrum. You can end up in the middle. You could say, hey, I'm going to teach career skills to college students. Definitely helps make money, but they still don't have money. And so then you're like, well, maybe it's still the parents of it. There's a whole range of things there. The second thing is to find a specific problem that you're solving. And you want to go as focused as possible here because that's the way to stand out initially. If you go really, really broad, I'm going to teach software development or pottery or all of these things, right? They're very, very broad and it's going to be hard to stand out or attract an audience. But instead, if you went very, very specific, like what's something in pottery that would be a very specific problem to solve that is maybe not as saturated that someone could talk about?
Ooh, how to make plaster molds.
Okay. Yeah, so you're finding this niche. There's not enough content about it. And you're like, look, I'm going to get very good at that. And then my YouTube videos are going to show up, right? Because YouTube is a search engine. That's the kind of thing that someone's going to do it once and be like, that didn't work. All right, how do I do this right?
Also, seriously though, like I really want to learn how to make plaster molds. It's highly annoying. And all of the videos are on YouTube are from like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're just bad.
So someone actually do that.
Please. Yeah. I have a bunch of plaster molds, but I don't know how to make them on my own. I want to make my own plaster molds.
Yeah. So if you went very niche as a content creator and you say, hey, I'm going to do this, that doesn't stop you from all aspects of pottery or even later branching out to other types of art. But you're starting with this very specific thing and people will come to you with this problem. Now, like to run with our, the money example of it, are these plaster molds expensive to buy or time consuming to make?
They're expensive to buy. They're hard to find.
Okay.
But also they're like other people's designs. So if you, let's say, throw something on your wheel and you're like, I want to replicate this exact thing, it's really difficult to do that over and over and over on the wheel. And so a plaster mold allows you to scale your business and create a custom like mold from your own designs.
So what's interesting about that is if you're, it might be the inflection point between someone who's doing it as a hobby and someone who wants to do it as a business is getting good at this skill. So then all of a sudden we're teaching a skill that makes money. Right. And obviously people who are just trying to do it as a hobby might care about that too.
Right.
But it starts to be in that the bridge between the different stages of business. And someone might be willing to invest money to do that. The other nice thing is that I imagine pottery is already somewhat expensive.
Very expensive.
So that's another thing in a creative business is if you choose a niche that money is already being spent in, that's such a different thing. Like there's probably a bunch of niches where it's like, we're extremely budget conscious, it costs very little money. And then if you're saying, hey, buy my $50 course or my $100 course on this, people are like, oh, how dare you ask for money on that? But if you were to take pottery or like a hobby of mine is airplanes, and in the category of airplanes, everything is absurdly expensive. And so if you were to say, oh, this is $100 or $500, people would be like, that's it, done.
Yeah.
And so that plays a big part in it. Okay, so the last part in that is you need distribution.
Oh, yep.
Or I guess there's two more parts, distribution and then product. So for this creator business, we need a way to reach our target audience. 10 years ago, we might be doing that really heavily through search, Google, SEO, all of that. And we're writing long form blog posts. Today, we're doing it probably through a social platform that's going to have algorithm driven content. So I would say choose one that both matches your interests, your interests, your audience type, and then also the media type that you like. So if we, I'm not going to go to X probably for my pottery content because it's so visual. And so that's going to belong much more on Instagram or TikTok. And so I would choose one platform and go all in on that. And I would just say, okay, I'm going to create one new reel per day. And it's going to be about this thing. And we're just going to be talking about all the different aspects of, how to make these molds. Right.
So one thing I'll just call out here, because I think it's an important thing to know about like the reality of actually growing an audience now versus 10 years ago, if you're brand new, is that on social media, it's much more difficult to grow now than it ever has been before. And so,
is it?
Yeah. Are you trying to grow on Instagram? I feel like you've been at 8,000 for a while.
Okay. I feel personally attacked. Okay.
8,297 to be exact. No, I have absolutely no idea what it is. But
I think you're very close.
Okay. But we're gonna reference check that.
I would argue, this is an interesting question. I would argue that it's easier to grow than ever before.
Okay.
It's actually 9,012 now.
Okay, so we just got a check from Kara, our producer, 9,012. So you were off by multiple percent.
Got it. Okay. Multiple.
Double-digit percent.
Okay.
Okay, so it being harder to grow versus easier to grow. There's a huge shift that's happened in all the social platforms from being follower-based to being algorithm-based. And so before it was harder to grow because all of the feeds were based on who follows you. But so if you put out content, it was really only reaching people who already followed you. So if that was 57 people or 8,200, it was pretty limited to just that group.
Right.
But every new follower you got, you really locked in that attention. And now it's flipped where the algorithms are entirely interest-based.
Right.
And so it's easier to get attention from new audiences, especially like Instagram has a feature where you can test a reel.
Oh, yeah.
And they will only put it out to new people and you can see how it performs.
Yeah.
But it's much harder to lock in those gains because a follower is worth probably a quarter or a tenth of what it was years ago. So that's like one platform-wide aspect of it. The other thing where I think you're absolutely right that it's harder now is I think the bar is harder on quality of content. And then, there's just a level of saturation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the way I think about this is, which is just important to note for me, is that on the social media side of things, right? A lot of people put so much focus and energy in building the content that they plan to sell, right? So that's the pottery course, whatever. And then they don't have a method they don't have an audience to distribute that to, right? And so when you're looking at your flywheel and you're saying like, where do I spend all my energy and focus on first? Oftentimes the social aspect, like growing your audience, has to be the first component because they spend, hours and hours creating this product and then they go to sell it and they have no one to sell it to. And so there should be like an early emphasis on growing your audience initially. And then from there, when we talk about growing your audience, and we do work for an email platform, so I feel like we should talk about this, but it should be converting your email audience or your social audience to an email audience, right? Yep. And you can still do that through the very traditional ways that have always worked, like opt-in incentives and creating something of value and giving it away for free. And then putting those super fans, right, into an email funnel. And then you have something to sell to. So if your goal, for example, if you're trying to grow 100 followers on social media, and then you convert 10% of those to we'll just say 10% of those to an email subscriber, and then you have a 20% conversion rate, then you've sold 2, right, of your courses or whatever it is that the product that you're selling. And that might be what success looks like. And then you're just continuing to always essentially scale and grow that funnel.
Yeah. And that balance, basically because the social platforms have gone from being follower-based to being interest-based, it's now more important than ever to have something like email that is entirely follower-based or subscriber-based, but to lock in that attention. And so those two really go hand in hand. If you get great at driving attention in an algorithm and then capturing it in email, and those, you're so good at going back and forth between those two things, I would say that most of the most successful creator businesses today are just built on those two principles. Yeah.
Gosh, this has got me thinking. I mean, I feel like I'm an expert at creating events. Maybe I should just, create an events course, sell that. No, I'm joking, but not. I mean, I should focus on Kit maybe. What do we think?
We could debate whether or not.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good
All
business.
right. We're going to move on because, Don, we could go another hour on that topic and go 1,000 different rabbit holes on starting from scratch for a creator who's brand new. So, all right, Simon, you are up. I'm curious about your take on this, Nathan. Building a music artist career from scratch. Again, so we're starting here from scratch. Most musicians try to make music first and build an audience around that. However, if they eventually get to 1 million streams, that doesn't necessarily pay the bills. How would you go about it?
Oh, okay. First, with the caveat that I know nothing about music.
I know we need Lars in this.
Well, that's what I was going to say is people should check out the episode that I did on the show with Lars on how he built his whole music catalog. And, he's earning over $50,000 a month off his music catalog. So
living his best life in Provence, by the way. Side note, like passive income, he works 2 hours a week?
Yeah. And even a bunch of his work is him sitting at his studio.
Yeah.
So things are going very well for Lars and he would be the best one to answer this. And he does put out content about, a career as a musician. So I think it depends a lot on the goals that you have. If it's to be someone in Lars's shoes of really making money off the streaming catalog, that's going to be one approach. Or if you're in the other side where you're like, look, I want to be a touring musician, that's probably going to take another approach. One thing that whichever path you take, that I would rely on is storytelling along the way. how you've gone on this journey, how you make your art, all of that. I think that's something that we've done well building Kit is even from the very beginning. I had the web app challenge where I'm talking about like, here's the lessons learned along the way, week over week. And we've always been transparent with so much in the business. So I would do the same thing in the music career. And I would set specific goals. And I would say something like, okay, my goal is to play 10 live events, in the month of June. I don't know. And so you're like, here's the open mic nights that I'm doing. Here's this or that. And you use a platform like Instagram to, you're doing the point of view videos. You're doing the, today is day 27 of trying to play, trying to do this. Like, here's my goal. Go on a journey that you can bring other people along with you.
Yeah.
And be honing your craft along the way and show people that. Right. There's so much of the perfectly polished music video and everything else. And people just aren't as into that these days.
Yeah.
They want to connect with you as a human.
Yeah, this one is a hard question to answer, I feel like, because there's also so many different ways that you can earn a living as a musician, right? So whether it's publishing, whether it's like you could just be a writer and focus only on that.
Right.
You could say, I want to be a touring musician. You could say, I want to be, there's so many different ways that you can earn revenue as an artist. But I think what's the theme throughout all of this is the storytelling component. Actually, there's this local kid who's a friend or who's a friend's son. And right now he is doing, shout out Lance Dawson. Right now he is doing a cover until he gets to 1,000 subscribers or 1,000 followers on Instagram. And I love it. He's great. He's like, I think he's in eighth or ninth grade. And I know his mom, but I don't know him very well. But I am fully invested in this journey, so much so that our the show creator sessions, I'm like, I've got this old mic, like I know where to put it, like I've got a mic stand, like I'm invested in this success for him now. And I barely know him. And that's just that's just me following along on this storytelling journey that this young musician is just getting started on.
I think every type of creator should have a stated goal of where they're trying to get to. It should be something probably achievable within a year, but it's like a big stretch. And you see these with these accounts where someone's saying like, okay, we're trying to get to 50,000. We're doing this until we get to 50,000 followers or something like that. And I love that the goal is 1,000 because the other thing is when you hit it, you can be like, sweet, now it's 10,000.
Yeah.
And follower counts are, one type of goal, but it could be something else of, something on a much, much bigger scale that really makes you want to follow along. Like this filmmaker, Matt Diavella, I don't know if he's still running his podcast. He's done a bunch of things. He shot the documentary for the Minimalists. So he's got stuff on Netflix and he's, has this amazing YouTube channel. And he always had this public goal for his podcast to have Dwayne Johnson on his podcast. And it became this like recurring joke where he, like in his studio, in his kitchen, actually, it was where he had his studio set up. He had this photo of The Rock, like that early photo where he's got the fanny pack and all of that, but like framed on his wall, like kind of small.
Yeah.
And it became this almost third character through the podcast and all of that. And everyone knew like, oh, Matt's trying to get The Rock on his podcast. And so people would do things to try to help make that happen, even though it was both a serious and not serious goal. And so I think as a creator, you need to set a goal for that, a goal of some kind that people can follow along. For me, it was to get to grow Kit to 5,000 a month in recurring revenue. And my other goal is to get Taylor Swift on the platform. So
I feel like we're just a couple of degrees away.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Okay, in case anybody is wondering, this is real. We would like your support and help on this. If anybody has a 1 to 2 degree connection away to her team, please, for the love of God, help Nathan reach this goal. Okay, it's
I just want to say
real.
That like for any musician, songwriter, like so much is into the lyrics and the words and the storytelling. Like that's a newsletter. And I want to read Taylor Swift's newsletter written on Kit.
Okay, this is another point going back to the music. Since so many people are asking about music right now, I've always thought this. Musicians are like the absolute best people to have a newsletter because they are writers.
Yes.
That is their form of like the way that they communicate with the world is writing first, right? And then it becomes like the performance component. But still, lyrics are just written words. And like that transition to a newsletter, Like, please, come on.
Yeah.
Just, okay. All right, moving on.
There's RSI. But going back to the journey and the public goal, I just think that's so important to put out there. And then people will come alongside and help you. Like that happened to me so much with Kit, where people who understood building software companies and all of this would say, okay, I see where you're trying to go. And yeah, I can help you with this. I can help you with copywriting, with design, introductions. I'll be an early customer. And so people can only do that if you have a stated goal. So I would make sure to do that.
One thing I also really want to encourage people to do that I actually really, I feel like this is a bit of a trend that's happening on social media right now, is where they're talking about being cringe. And sometimes stating that goal feels extremely cringy. If you're like, I'm trying to get to 1,000 followers, and like they're more embarrassed about making that stating that. But once you put that out into the world, you'd be amazed at how many people are actually going to be cheering you on. Like I said, I wasn't necessarily cheering on Lance Dawson before he said that. And now I'm invested in this journey to him getting 1,000 subscribers or Instagram followers. So all that to say, lean into being cringe is the point. Because sometimes that's like the first step in success. All right. Next one, Raymond. This is from Raymond. For those consistently writing newsletters, what's the best way to distribute their newsletters to more people?
Okay. The single biggest growth thing that we've seen in newsletters is the Creator Network.
Yeah.
That is Kit's platform for connecting creators to each other. And, when someone subscribes to your newsletter, you recommend someone else, and then vice versa. We have invested a huge amount of time, as you know, into helping find and connect other creators. So things like, here's creators who write similar content to you, who are who you subscribe to, who subscribe to you, who are recommended by your friends. All of those things you can search by content type. All this you can search by location now. By the time this comes out, you could say, here's creators in my city. So connecting with other creators is the single biggest thing, both on the Creator Network and off of that.
Let's put some numbers to it though, because what is the average conversion rate for gaining a new subscriber off of an opt-in incentive? I know this is a wide variety because it really does depend on how well your opt-in incentive is positioned to your audience, but just in general.
Well, I would say if it's a dedicated landing page with like targeted traffic going to it, it might be like 30 to 50%.
Okay.
If it's like on a site, or like at the end of a blog post, it might be 1 to 3%.
Right. Okay. And then in the Creator Network, we're seeing the conversion rate look like
call it 20 to 40%.
Yeah. So I think that's just a really interesting indicator, because so many people are looking at opt-in incentives and they're saying like, I didn't expect you to say if it was a dedicated landing page, 30 to 50%. I do actually think that's a little bit high.
It just all depends of like, if you have that reel on Instagram,
right,
and then you're pointing traffic directly to it, then it's going to be really high because someone came with intent.
Yeah.
But otherwise it's going to be, the 1 to 3%.
Yeah. Especially I'm thinking of like a food content creator, for example, like
someone's there for the recipe.
Exactly.
Hey, download this other thing. And
but I'm thinking of a specific creator. I won't say his name, but his recommendation, very valuable recommendation, because his conversion rate is 67%. Now he's recommending somewhere around 15 to 20 different creators, at least last time I looked. But he, by way of his recommendation, it's a 67% conversion rate when the pop-up window comes up within the Creator Network. And what that looks like is essentially a modal that pops up and it says, if you're just subscribed to my newsletter, here are 3 other creators that you'd be interested in that have similar content, right? And then it takes them to their creator profile. But I agree, that is the fastest way to growth right now.
I think the next fastest way, which still involves collaboration with other creators, is to make an opt-in incentive. We call it a lead magnet, whatever it is. Make something valuable and give it away for free and get in front of other people's platforms. So that might be a collaboration on YouTube or Instagram. That might be a guest post in someone else's newsletter. Or, it could even be like workshops or something that you're teaching in person. And you're saying, hey, if you want to download this, go sign up for free here.
A really good example of the guest post, actually, we did this, or we saw this within one of our newsletters, is Ryan Holiday, who's the Daily Stoic. He wrote a newsletter about how Tom Brady the GOAT, leveraged and used stoicism throughout his football career, right? And then inside of that newsletter, there was a one-click to follow embedded opportunity for him to follow Tom Brady's new newsletter. And so that's great because it's not based off of the essentially new subscribers that are subscribing to his newsletter, but it went out to his entire newsletter list. And so that's an example of a collaboration that works really well when it comes to the Creator Network and the guest posting.
Yeah. You can tell this like collaboration with other creators is really important to us because we spend thousands of hours of our engineers' time building these features for like one-click recommendations and all that.
The other thing I really like about this this point is referencing Chris Donnelly, who he was just on one of your last episodes. We've spent quite a bit of time with him. I feel like over the last couple of months, he's building an amazing creator business. But he talks about like this initial pod that he created, and we talk about this idea of pods all the time, right? So he had a pod of, it was like Chris, Sahil Bloom, Eric Partaker, Simon Squibb, right? And it goes beyond just the Creator Network, but essentially any time that they were creating content, they were all promoting each other's content. And so that idea of a pod of support is really important to your success as well.
You get someone cheering for you, you get the accountability. You know, if you have that like text group where people are like, you know, hey Nathan, you haven't posted anything this week. What's up? Do you actually take your business seriously? Or, you know, that sort of accountability is really, really helpful.
All right. This is from Brian. Nathan, your journey with Kit is an incredible example of finding a blue ocean by focusing on an underserved niche. In the HR tech space, we are seeing a similar opportunity. Many startups try to serve everyone, but we are narrowing in on a specific group with unique challenges. What advice would you give to founders who are identifying a blue ocean in a crowded market? How do you know when you have found the right niche, and what are the first steps to truly owning that space?
Okay, so first we went into the most crowded space there is. Like most industries are kind of a winner take most environment where, like especially in like B2B software, where one player has taken like 80% of the market and then everyone else has the scraps. Email is insanely competitive and MailChimp's the biggest, but then there's tons and tons of platforms that are 100+ million a year in revenue. And so it did not feel like a blue ocean at all. Now, the difference, and this is what I think the question is about, is by going after creators specifically, like that was saying crowded market, well-established problems, but here's our very specific focus. It was such a specific focus that in the early days when I tried to raise money, every VC I talked to was like, this market is way too small. It will never be a thing. And thankfully that was, well, two things I'm thankful about that. One, that I failed to raise money and ended up keeping the company totally bootstrapped. And then two, the market ended up
you know what's funny about this? I have this very vivid, it had to have been Craft and Commerce maybe 2019 or something. You're getting up there, you're on your keynote, and you were talking about the landscape of email. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Okay. And you're basically saying like, here's all the different competitors. We had Drip and we had Aweber and we had MailChimp and we had us. And over time, all of these folks have left the creator economy, but our focus has always been on serving creators. And what's interesting is that we continued down that path. And then all of a sudden there were some new competitors that came into the market, right? So now you have Substack and you have a few others that have come into the space. But our focus has always been laser focused on creators. And I think that's, to answer your question specifically, that's the thing that made us realize that we were in the right space, focusing on the right group.
Well, and I think you'll see a lot of, within a market, you'll see people who show up in a specific niche or say, hey, we're going to serve this group within the market out of opportunity. Like this might be a little too inside baseball, but as the market was shifting, we competed a lot with a platform called Drip. And then they made this very deliberate pivot to go into the e-commerce side of things, where they said, oh, we're going to, focus more on Shopify stores and all of that. And I think they did it out of opportunity rather than like the core DNA of the company. And I don't think it worked out well, even though it was probably a very good strategic decision. And so for this example in healthcare, like if you're choosing a specific niche, make sure that it is all the way through the DNA of the company and like core to your mission and everything that you want to be long-term, not just a strategic move. Because I think that's why the focus on creators has worked so well for Kit, is because it's just through the DNA of the company and always has been. And it was our focus before it was a good strategic decision. And, it will continue to be our focus for a very long time.
Yeah. I will say, if we go even further back though, in our DNA, you said email marketing for bloggers, right? Yeah. Email marketing for writers. Now, bloggers and writers were the original creators, right? There's since been an infusion of different types of creators, like the podcast industry blowing up and, influencers and so on and so forth. But that's even more narrow and more niche. And then the term creator sort of adapted over the last several years.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so another question from Brian Kaplan. We're just going to keep going down this list. What kind of feedback mechanisms did you implement as you grew Kit to make sure that you were staying on point? I feel like forms are too generic and won't get the kind of raw insights a founder needs, but individual video chats can be time consuming when you are spinning plates. Any tips here?
Yeah, I think that the individual conversations are everything. And this is why you have to choose an industry that you're deeply passionate about, and you have to be in it with them. And so if you're saying, hey, I'm going to have 10 coffee meetings with my ideal customer in the next 2 weeks, are you excited about that? Or you're like, oh, here we go. And if you feel the second way, then probably choose a different industry or don't start a company, right? You have to be excited and want to do it. That's why I feel so privileged to serve creators, because I can talk to creators all day, every day, and be really excited.
Same. That is by far my favorite part of my job, is just like getting to sit down and be like, what do you do?
Yeah. What do you do? How can I help? Like, what problems are you running into?
Wow. Like, never thought of that. Like, there is literally a niche for everyone. And like, there is somebody that is doing or teaching or talking about every possible topic in the creator industry, which is so fun.
And I would say, sometimes we summarize all of our research down to a transcript or a note that we're going to give to our dev team or something else. But if you were to put the value on, user interviews and research conversations, I would say that the text snippet, the reply to a form or the comment is worth 1. Maybe the Zoom call is worth 10. I would say the face-to-face conversation is worth 50 or 100. Like, it is so much more valuable because you're going to learn so much more. You're going to demonstrate so much more care. Even if you paid for a $5 coffee for them, they're going to be like, yeah. I mean, this platform took me out to coffee, and they wanted to know how to help me more.
Yeah, there's more to come on this, but we are working on an initiative on this internally. But being in person with creators is ultimately one of the biggest leading indicators to Kit growing. Yeah, I believe.
That's why we struggled so much during COVID.
Yeah,
is because we had built that into the DNA of the company of show up in person, be at events, meet with people, masterminds, all of these things. And then during COVID, we're like trying to do digital versions of it. And I think we didn't feel the effects of that until like 2022, 2023.
Yeah.
But I would just say, yes, the Zoom chats and the in-person conversations take way more time, and they're worth every bit of it. Now, you might use the survey or the comments to source those conversations, right? If you had 1,000 customers and you sent out a survey, you're going to probably find that 20 of them have strong opinions. And then you're like, great, I don't have to get on calls with all 1,000. Right. Let me start with calls with these 20, and I'll really learn more. And because others are going to be like, oh, I don't know, it works fine.
Right. Okay, I'm excited about this one because it comes from another Nathan, who's a plastic surgeon from Brisbane, Australia. He says, I've started an email newsletter, 1,200 subscribers who are all doctors, after you highlighted the importance of building a personal brand. I'm currently deciding on whether to offer in-person coaching, build online courses, or start a community. I'd appreciate your opinion on what you think would generate the most revenue. My goal is to operate less and to spend more time with my family.
Okay. So first, this might be one of the highest value audiences ever, right? If you think about, do you want 1,200 high schoolers? Do you want 12, all these, it's like plastic surgeons who are actively practicing.
All have money to spend.
And they'll probably implement that feedback. Like all of the things they do, they're going to take it very seriously. So a very high value audience. So that's fantastic. If we think about this model, I would wonder who already does it. I think that as a creator, you should have role models, and you should have maybe 1 or 2 from your industry, and then a couple from very separate industries and say, you know what, I want to build I don't know, like I'm Cody Sanchez, but for this, you know, I don't know what it would look like. Right. But if you said, I want to be the Cody Sanchez of plastic surgery training, right? Then that would get you into this where you're like, okay, so then I'd be running events like this and I'd be doing investing and, you know, down this whole stream. You might like write out that plan and then go, okay, not that. And then you say, okay, I want to be the Dan Martell or Marie Forleo or, you know, like you could try on a few of these different business models and see if those work. But I think it's really important to copy from other industries.
Yeah.
Like for example, when I was in the software space, I would copy a lot back and forth from the online marketing space and the startup space. So I would bring in long form sales pages with like really good copy into the startup and design space where they'd never been seen before, but I would do them with really good design.
Right.
And so then in the online marketing space, people would see that and be like, these are so well designed. Like here's something that we see time and time again, but yours actually look good. And so you can copy from those different industries. Or in when I was designing websites, I love to copy from clothing brands, like walk into Banana Republic and copy design inspiration from the textures on their tags or, you know, their fall collection or something like that.
Side note, I did just learn there was a great piece of content on Banana Republic's origin story. And just like go look it up. Okay. Because it's like pretty actually like funny and also like wildly surprising. I had no idea that it was like a safari. It's actually it's a very cool story. So side note, go look it up.
As an aside, go check out Banana Republic. Okay. So that's a couple different things on, you know, copy and learn from different industries or from individuals. The other thing, I would think a lot about how you want to spend your time. You know, like let's say this is a group that would happily pay for $5,000 seminars, right? They have the money for it. You only need 20 people to show up to a $5,000 seminar and we're all of a sudden $100,000 in revenue. It's going to take a lot of $39 ebooks to add up to $100,000 in revenue. Right. So that's, if you were saying, hey, how do I go from 1,200 subscribers to 100,000 in revenue? Then something very high ticket like that is going to matter. But then you might say like, okay, well, I actually don't want to be on a plane to do that. Or I'm in Australia, more of my audience is in the US. I don't want to be making that trip all the time. So there's going to be some constraints on it. And so I would put out those non-negotiables of like, hey, I'm willing to get on a plane for this 6 times a year. Right. Or whatever that is. And then I would just have conversations. The great thing about a high quality audience of 1,200 people is you could talk to 25 of them and say, hey, what can I do to serve you more? What problems are you encountering? And you could have that list. And then what format would most help you with this? Coaching, community, you know, the content, all of that. And you're going to get like 20 of those conversations and you'll find some themes pretty quickly.
Yeah. I think one of the ways that I would, what I would suggest as far as backing into this, backing into the goal. His goal is stated that he wants to spend more time with his family. And so from an income perspective, what has to be true about the income that you need to gain, right? To allow you to do that. So for one-on-one coaching, right? It's like how many clients would you need in order to replace the amount of income that you would replace from actually practicing plastic surgery? And what does the time commitment actually look like for that? And so, you know, Barrett Brooks, who's coming on as a guest in the next couple of days, so it'll air somewhere around there. You know, I know from him personally that spending time with his family is really important. And so he's built a business around that. And you can reference the episode because they're going to talk about that. But I would back into that a little bit more too and see, you know, maybe if you have a community that often requires a lot of work inside of the community to continue to foster it, unless it's of course a cohort-based community where you're doing something like a 30-day cohort inside of a community. So I think the one-on-one coaching for him in particular could be really valuable just because the type of people that he would be coaching have money to spend. So it'd be a high ticket offer.
And that's, you know, the model that I'm seeing people have probably the highest income with the highest quality of life from relatively small audiences is group coaching. That I'm seeing it over and over again. I was talking to a friend who lives in LA who's been a restaurant founder and operator and then investor and all this for a long time. And he was getting going with this creator side of his business. And he's very well established. He's consulted with lots of restaurants, and even was friends with the owners of some of my favorite restaurants here in Boise. So we met in, I guess it'd be January, and we're talking through. And then, I don't know, 5 months later, I caught up with him, like, hey, how's the creator venture going? And he's like, great, we're on track to do $1 million in revenue this year. And I was like, wait, what? How? And he had implemented a group coaching model, and he had a relatively small audience, but he's group coaching for restaurant operators. He had all the credibility in the industry. So this is similar if someone coming in, if you have 1,200 plastic surgeons on you probably have a lot of credibility. And he was like, it's really good. Like, I operate this business 10 hours a week, and I'm still doing my investing in restaurants and all of that.
The other thing I really like about group coaching is that it ends up also facilitating a community within the group, right? So if there's 5 people that are within that group coaching cohort, they can also serve one another. So you end up being the facilitator of those relationships, but they can still lean on each other because they're all experiencing the same problem. When it's one-on-one, they don't have accountability from other people that are in that group coaching cohort. So I think that's another thing to add. All right, we've got 2 more questions, maybe 3, but these next 2 are kind of linked, even though they're from 2 different people. So this is from Jameen. Apologies if I said that incorrectly, but if you had to start over and build Kit today, how would you approach it? Would you use AI as your developer? What growth channels would you focus on? And interested just to hear your general thoughts on this.
Yeah, so first I would absolutely use AI for development, but I would hire experts as well. I think that you could mock up a prototype. You could get maybe a first version off the ground for a narrow use case with AI, and that would be great. Maybe your first 10 or 50 customers, but it's not going to be a stable platform to build on long term. So I believe you would either need to become a developer yourself or hire one in that process, but you could go 0 to 1 much faster. I would still focus a lot on direct sales because I think that really matters to get early feedback. And then the other thing is I would choose one content channel. A lot of companies don't build through content or don't grow their own audience. And it's worked so well for us. And so I would still absolutely, share content along the way of the journey. And I'd really try the creator aspect of it.
I think that's one thing that we've done really well is that you are a creator yourself. So you focus so much just on education and on service. And so you are always serving and teaching, which I think really helped people rely on Kit as a platform and then become obsessed with you. So,
yes.
Okay, this is the next one. Let's see if it can pull any more additional insights out. This is from Ryan Craig. When you were starting Kit, what were the key early hires that made the biggest difference?
Why are you laughing, Haley?
I'll get there. If you were starting over today with tools, AI, and resources we have now, who would your first hires be? And how would your overall approach to building the team change? There is only one answer for this. Who would
I would hire a head of creator community who would get us deeply involved in the creator community. And
all right, just make right answer correct. You could say me by name if you'd like, But thank you for the tee up, Ryan. I appreciated that. I did not plan that question.
I saw the question unfold on LinkedIn, so I did know that it was.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, you're right. The only answer is me. Only
that's
answer.
Right. Okay. Early hires. I think they're different than they were years ago. Everyone has to be very proficient in AI, no matter what their role is, right? Someone who would build a customer experience and customer success team way different today than they would 5 years ago, right? They're going to probably implement an AI team like Fin or ParaHelp or one of these tools from day one. So they're basically everyone plays more of a manager role than a boots on the ground role. They might be managing agents. In the early days of Kit, we had this period where we were scaling ridiculously. Probably from, July 2015, I want to say we were 10K MRR. And by January 1st, we were 100K MRR. And so if you imagine 10X in 6 months, it was insane. And we were all just doing a huge amount of grunt work to keep the business operating, customer support tickets, bug fixes, all of that. And so all of that work, and so a lot of our early hires were around that work. But now you would say you're basically hiring the managers who would be doing that work. But they have to be very hands-on and scrappy. right? That's something that I think people fall into two buckets of like, I want to create this outcome, but I don't want to do the work. And so I'm going to build the team that will do it or whatever else. And that was one old model. And then you get these other people who don't care at what level they are. They're just like, I'm going to create the outcome no matter what, like force of nature style. And weirdly, you have to hire someone who's the blend of both of those, where they have to think like a manager and act like an IC. And it's so important, especially in this new world.
Yeah. Great answer. All right. Anik Singhal. This is the final question for this episode. Curious about your biggest strategic mistake and what you learned. I love this question because I love failing. That not failing specifically, but I just think there's so many lessons that come out of failure. And so I'm very excited about this one. And also sometimes in order to be wildly successful, you have to take big swings strategically. And sometimes they don't always hit. So I'm anxious to hear this one. Biggest strategic mistake and what you learned.
Okay. First one that came to mind is a product mistake of something that served us for a period of time and then didn't after that. So in the early days of building Kit, we did not have beautiful email templates. And we learned that plain text emails, we ran the tests, actually performed better, right? If you made an email that looked like you just fired it off in Gmail, it would get a better click-through rate and better engagement than the like beautifully designed email template. And so I went and wrote blog posts about that. And we made that like sort of a flag of the product. And it served us really well. I would say up until the maybe 200,000, 300,000 a month in revenue mark. And then we got other people who came in who said, great, love what you're doing with the platform, the sequences, the automation, like all of this is good, but I want beautiful email templates. And we were like, no, you don't want that. You want this instead. And we're just like hammering them over the head with this. And so we didn't invest in our email editor for a long time because we had this like hardline stance, even though the market was changing and we were going out to a broader group of people. And I think around 2019, 2020, that really left this market open for Flowdesk to come in and to just say, look, this is the only problem we're going to solve. And we were just purely going to do beautiful email templates. And they nailed it and they built a great business off of that. And so I think even a few years later, when we rebuilt our editor, we have this whole marketplace where you can buy and sell templates. There's free ones, there's paid ones, all of this. And the editor is very, very capable. Like some of those early impressions that people have about the product still stick around, even though it's not true anymore. So what I would have done is, if I could do it all over again, is still have the same early strategy of find the things that are absolutely true and play to your strengths and double down on that. But then constantly evaluate, or once a year, once every 6 months, evaluate, is this still serving us? Does this still match where the market is? And then instead of subtly changing, like very deliberately changing and say, hey, we're still the best at these plain, authentic emails, but we're also incredible at the really visual templates.
Yeah. Another one I'm thinking of, what about our acquisition of FanBridge?
Oh, yeah.
This is a good one because monetarily, it chalks out, right? And we could say that it was a success. But I do think that it took away from certain focus at the time. Curious on your thoughts.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. You have to rewind the clock to, I'm trying to think, would be 2018, 2019, maybe 2020. Somewhere around that time, we started to notice a trend that was happening where we were getting pulled more and more into the direct response marketer group. Basically what happened is we had a product that was amazing for making money. We had killer deliverability. We had these plain text emails that converted really, really well. All the automations were great. And so this group of people who are amazing at making money on the internet started to say, "Ooh, go use Kit." And they often didn't have the best reputations. Like they weren't doing anything shady, but they were the ones where you sort of raise an eyebrow.
No, they were for sure doing shady things. Well, some of them.
Some of them were. And you can get pulled in this direction. We saw it happen. And this is actually, I've had conversations with it, but like Alex Hermosi is all over the, social media conversations right now because he just did his huge book launch at the time that we're recording this. And he's been promoting School as a platform. and I'm friends with Sam, who runs school, and friends with Alex. And I just told them both directly, like, you guys have a huge reputation problem because as you've built this platform, you've done it with the penny stock traders and the get rich quick on the internet people, and it's resulted in a ton of revenue. But if you don't very deliberately do something with this, the whole brand will be pulled there, and like the gravity of it will be so extreme that you won't be able to recover from it. So I think, identified that problem early and said, okay, it's not just, we don't want to like just avoid more people like that. We have to actively pursue something else. And so we went to, okay, what type of creators really inspire us? And we're like, well, musicians, for a lot of the reasons that we've already talked about. And so, all right, how do we get more musicians on the platform? We're going after it. And then there's an opportunity to buy FanBridge, which was a venture-backed company that had grown like crazy and then stalled out. And they were very focused on email marketing for musicians. And so we acquired the company, we integrated it, migrated it, everybody over, and, pursued this whole music strategy. And it was interesting because on one hand, it totally failed. There were so many things. I mean, as you learned about music licensing, as we did creator sessions.
In case anybody's wondering, music licensing is incredibly expensive. Okay. Maintaining music licensing also incredible. You know why Lars is doing so well? That's why.
So it was interesting. Like if we were to go back and put retroactive success metrics on it, because I guess the first mistake is we didn't have clear success metrics for this push into music.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we didn't know. So that was mistake number one. But if we put retroactive metrics on it, I think the original primary goal would be to expand our brand. And I think we did that very, very well. Like, it was pretty early that we're like, we got Tim McGraw and then Mandy Moore and Leon, we really latched onto a handful of these names. Drew Holcomb, right? Matt Kearney. And that helped us so much. And we started to immediately pull out of like the area that we were getting pigeonholed into. Then the next goal was to drive revenue. And we were dead wrong about our ability to drive revenue.
Wrong.
Like it could not be more wrong. Because we were trying to convince people to use a product that they didn't want to use in a way that they didn't want to use it.
Well, at the time, musicians primarily and only used email to essentially sell tickets.
Yeah, for touring.
Yeah, for tour. And so it essentially that we were in an uphill battle trying to convince them why email was a valuable tool for storytelling and connection to their audience. And they just weren't there yet.
And even the ones who got it still didn't do it.
Still didn't do it. And what's funny though, is how many musicians now do we have that are actually leveraging and using email? Because the narrative has changed a lot.
Well, like an interesting example would be Lil Jon had a FanBridge account, and that's where he ran his newsletter and did all of that. It was not very active and it was very transactional. And I think somewhere in the process of migrating to Kit and all of that, he canceled it, didn't move forward with it. And then we had this whole roundabout thing where we made friends with this guy named Kabir who showed up to Craft and Commerce, and he's like, I just want to meet you guys. Also,
Kabir is a musician himself. He has like 12 Grammys, right? Like
I think it's like 18.
18 Grammys, sorry.
What he told me was, if you remove the classical composers, he's number 4 for most Grammys.
It's incredible.
I hope I can say this. He said that Kanye was just ahead of him, but he's like, I don't think Kanye is winning any more Grammys. So he's moving up the rankings. He just won 2 more Grammys this last year.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
But Kabir came into our world and had the same vision of, he's like, musicians, they write lyrics, they're storytellers, like help me show all these people. And so then through that, he started a conversation with Lil Jon again. And then Lil Jon ended up launching this great newsletter called Wellness Wednesdays, which is all about mindfulness and meditation. And like he's telling his stories in his authentic voice. And so like a lot of these things came around full circle. So, okay, I guess going back to...
was this a strategic mistake?
I think it was. Because if we were to... The thing that we didn't understand is how hard it would be to have musicians as a core customer base that we earned revenue from, which revenue is pretty important for operating our business. And if we were saying, look, we only need musicians because we love them and because they'll do great things for our brand, we could have gone out and recruited 10 musicians to the platform and given them the product for free,
right,
and something else, right? Like spending ultimately millions of dollars to acquire a company and do all this other thing.
I think where we failed there is that we tried, but I still don't think that we did enough education on the value of email within that specific cohort and niche. But I think that could have changed.
I agree, but I don't think you should be convincing people that they need your product. I don't think you should be convincing them that the pain point exists. I think they should feel the pain acutely. This goes back to the other questions around niche selection and everything else. Like they have to already feel the pain and you have to be a solution. You can't come in and convince them, or you shouldn't, that they have this pain.
Well,
and
we talk about this though, right? Because with email, and email right now is sexy. Okay, it is sexy. It is having its moment.
Ask pretty much every celebrity right now.
But I have this slide in a talk that I give, right? And there's always a moment where creators realize, oh crap, I need email. Right. I need a more direct relationship with my audience. And I really want to figure out a way to tell people before they experience that problem. There is a way to do it. I haven't figured it out exactly yet. I mean, we'll say on a percentage basis, maybe I'm successful 30% of the time, but I should be successful 100% of the time, because they always come back and they're like, it's like, I told you so, you were right, and one day we'll get there. But I mean, without a doubt, like that relationship, that one-on-one relationship, they always realize at some point in their creator career that they need it.
Yeah.
And so I really want to figure it out. If you figure it out or you have some advice, let me know.
Email us.
Email us.
So going back to the question of the big mistakes, I think we could probably brainstorm a whole bunch more, and that might be a fun episode to do some, like maybe when we hit 100 million in revenue, we'll be like the 10 biggest mistakes we made scaling Kit to 100 million in revenue.
Nathan made.
Okay. So it sounds like the win is ours and the mistakes are mine. Is that?
That's exactly what a best leader. I mean, do we not know? Obviously,
But I think the things that we've done well in that process are owning the mistakes and then learning from them. Like, I think as we've really, like within all of creators, we focused a lot more on authors and not just because we think authors are amazing and we love them, but also because they're really good at running businesses. And so we're not having to convince them of the value of email and some of those things. And so like in that niche selection within creators, we went to a group that already knows how to make money and already knows how to use email to do it. And so I think we've done a good job of learning from a lot of these mistakes along the way.
I love it. Well, I'm feeling like I just didn't have enough opportunity to rag on you this episode.
You tried. I saw some good effort.
Yeah, there was some fair effort, but I'm feeling like I failed a little bit. I
you let down the fans.
Yeah, I might have answered or asked a lot of really great questions, from all of these folks, but nobody teed me up except for Ryan. And it was just for, me saying that I was the most important hire that you ever made, which certainly isn't true.
I mean, we'll ignore the data on that.
I think you did a great job, Haley.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right.
Kara from the producer seat says it was a great episode.
Yes.
Kara, how would you rate this episode on a 1 to 5 scale?
I have high standards, Nathan.
Okay. Oh God,
high
that's
standards.
not a good leading indicator. The way that she just phrased that.
I would say 3.5 to 4.
3.5 to 4. Okay.
It's actually really good.
Yeah.
For a Q&A episode.
It's good for any episode.
Okay.
Kara has very high standards.
Yeah. I am advocating that Kara come out from behind the camera into in front of the camera, because she just hits.
The thing is, you'll know if she's going to do this based on the fact if she cuts this whole segment or if she lets this air.
Yeah, no. And
Haley and I talked about it beforehand a little bit.
Yeah, I'm advocating for it. So if you'd also like to know more about Kara, the woman behind the show,
who kind of lurks in the shadows in the studio.
who also, I think I joked that I was the most powerful person on this whole podcast because I get to ask the hard hitting creative questions, but really it's Kara who has all the power.
Are you going to tell them we talked about me being a character?
Oh yeah. I said, I said, when are you going to be a character? But I just said character, and then Kara said character. Caricature.
They hate it.
I'm cringing so much.
You love it.
Put it in the comments if you think that is the worst joke ever.
Right,
yeah. Okay. Sorry. We were told to wrap it up. Nathan, I love your shirt. Thanks for matching with us. There were so many good questions, but in all seriousness, these episodes are really fun because we get to dig into just what really people want to know from you. And I'm always surprised at some of the questions that come out. Everybody loves to know about what it's like to build a software company, a bootstrap software company. And some people want to dig into those creator questions. But if you have questions, ask them so I can hold all the power and ask Nathan more questions. If you guys don't ask questions, then I can't come back.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay. If you don't ask good questions,
then I can't come back.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I think you'll enjoy the last episode Haley and I did, which is episode 66. We answered your questions about building a creator business that lasts, like when to stay solo and when to build a team, and whether to go high ticket or low ticket with your offers. We also got into newsletter trends, celebrity brands, and how to build systems that scale without burning out. So go give that one a listen. Make sure that you're subscribed. And if you want your questions answered on the show, feel free to leave a comment below.